Welcome to our podcast. Today is our first podcast for easyhomesteading.com. And what we're going to try and do is sort of go through why self-sufficiency is important. I'm Dan Short. I created the company. And I've got Benicia here on my left. Why are you here?
To voice my opinion on preparedness from the younger generation's perspective.
How old are you, Benicia?
I'm 25.
25. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I'll tell you, that's not why she's really here. She's here because I hear her talking about her generation all the time, and I figure if I'm going to get someone who's going to disagree with me because I'm old and I think the wrong way, it's going to be Benicia. So that's why you're here. All right, and I've also got William on my right. How old are you, William?
I have just turned 38. Birthday was Friday.
Why are you here?
I'm here as well. Good friend of mine called. I like to call him a friend, a customer, a good guy called, and we have very good conversations. We're around, and he's one of the few people I know I can disagree with and still have the conversation.
Yeah.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
No, you're actually right. That we engage in politics, we engage in world events. Mm-hmm. We don't agree on everything.
Yep.
But I don't believe either of us have ever exited a conversation upset at all.
Never.
So we can agree to disagree, or we can sometimes even shift each other's opinions a little bit. All right, I'm 60. All right, so we almost have three different generations here, right?
Yes.
So that's what I'm looking forward to is kind of everybody's thoughts based on where you're from and your age and your peer group, right? So what we're trying to do here is sort of establish, is this thought that I had, this crazy thing I woke up one night and said, let's create a company called Easy Homesteading. And the three tenets of Easy Homesteading are, better nutrition, like eating healthier is tenet one. Number two is homesteading, self-sufficiency, just taking care of yourself. And number three is, am I really prepared for a disaster, whether it's a natural or man-made disaster? So that's what we're here to discuss today, and I'm really looking forward. Look, I don't want you to hold back, all right?
Okay.
The gloves are off, and let's talk. All right, so let's just start with what kind of an environment? Are you in an urban environment, a suburb, or are you in a rural environment?
I live in the suburbs.
Okay, so you've got some neighbors.
Yes.
Okay. Do you feel fairly comfortable in your neighborhood? Do you trust your neighbors?
Yeah, they're cool. Definitely very neighborly. Knock on the door. Can I get some flour type?
Okay. All right. Cool.
Is it a house?
No, it's an apartment complex.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got neighbors. Like you can bang on your wall and communicate with neighbors. All right. So you're in a suburb, but I would say that you're almost in a micro urban environment within the suburbs, right?
Sort of, kind of where I live at. It was very much rural country, and now it's emerging into the suburban or urban.
Yeah.
I
think I know that area.
More people are getting involved. How about you, William?
I live in a suburb now. I'm a big boy. I'm just so proud of having a home and neighbors. My neighbors are cool. I got old Mr. Mason. I got a Mr. Richardo. He's a 75-year-old man, retired, and Mr. Don. Great. I love it. I love living in the suburbs.
Okay, so do you how much yard do you have? Do you need a lawnmower?
Yeah, I've got about a quarter acre in the front, about a half acre in the back.
Oh, okay.
Got 2,200 square foot. Got a deck. My wife does all the decorating, but
I like crap about all your personal amenities.
You need to hear.
How much land do you?
It took me a long time to earn it. You're
Okay,
gonna hear every bit of it.
Shut up
I can get a grill out there. I got a property for kids. It's nice. I'm proud of myself.
Okay.
Toot the horn every time. There you go.
You got a yard.
Yes.
All right. You don't have a yard.
No.
All right, and I've got about a 6.5 acre yard. So
nice.
I lived in the city up until a recent period, and quite honestly, I had about a tenth of an acre around my house. So there was my house, and you could almost have mowed my yard with a weed eater. And I wasn't digging that, all right? And so I decided to move out, and so I'm in a rural environment, sort of a semi-farm environment, all right? So we all have slightly different perspectives. I'm going to call you sort of semi-urban. You're really suburban.
Suburban.
And I'm rural. All right, so and I moved out of the suburbs and the urban area for a reason. And so we're going to see are we all in the right spots for us?
Yeah.
So the thing that we have to be prepared for is what if, right? So look, have you ever been through a hurricane?
Yes.
Okay, and And was your power down after the hurricane?
Oh yeah, during it, after.
For how
it's
long?
Scary. For too long.
Okay, so did your food go bad in your refrigerator?
No. When I say too long, it was just because I was young, so I was scared. So,
Okay.
But it was like all day, like for the rest of the day, and then with how the power people had to come out, I think the longest we went without power was maybe like 2 days.
2 days. Okay, so most of the food should have stayed good
Yeah.
in the refrigerator. And water, did it keep flowing?
I don't remember that.
Could
I
you
would
still
assume so,
could
yeah.
you poo in the toilet
I
and
think-
flush the toilet?
Yeah.
Okay, so you still had much of your infrastructure up
Yeah.
and running. How about you? You've been through a nasty
Yeah,
storm?
I've been through a couple of them. Some in Virginia. I probably the longest I've been without power is probably about 3-4 days.
Okay.
I've had food spoil. I've had the water go out where the pumps and whatnot for the water. I don't know. Something was where we couldn't use the water. And I think my rule of thumb for my house is anything more than 3 days, we got to start having a plan.
Okay.
Now I've got a slight plan in place, but it's more so. I'm never thinking that it's going to be longer than 3 or 4 days.
Okay. And I'm just going to throw this out. Has the events of the last 2 years started shifting your thoughts about things maybe being not quite as stable as you thought they were?
After talking to you, yeah. I'm not sure if anybody knows here. I've known him for maybe a year now, and then there's certain thoughts which he has good points, but we will argue certain points here today.
Yeah, we'll argue on this or that. But
Yeah.
but do you think that there will always be food and water and electricity and fuel no matter what? Based on what if you've been watching the news for the last 2 years.
You're saying the combination, or you're saying all?
Well, I mean, you need all of them, right? You need all of them.
I mean, I can see something changing. Yes, you see right now, food prices are going through the roof, and it's not because we have an abundant amount of food. Of course, most of the prices are going to rise because there's just a scarcity of something. And then also with the fuel, I don't know which way America's trying to ride with that. I'm not going to go too deep about it, but yeah. But I can see what you're saying.
All right. Are you nervous at all about what's going on and what you've seen?
Yeah, because I don't know, it's starting to give like end of the world vibes, and it's just like I still want to live,
Okay, okay. End of the world vibes, even.
Yeah.
I'm not quite there, but that's an interesting phrase. What is it that's making you think that things aren't good? Just give me some examples, some tangible examples.
Just with like inflation, the fact that gas is not. I feel like it's the most unstable it's been since I've been able to pump gas in a car.
Okay.
And so, just I guess like the overall just like infrastructure of our economy is just nothing makes sense anymore to me, and I don't know how to navigate that as a young person as far as like budgeting or even like saving for now so that the future can be good. So it's just like.
Well, let me just tell you about savings. I used to believe in savings, and I don't want to stop anyone from thinking that savings are a good idea. But quite honestly, if you don't buy it now, it may not be available tomorrow. If it is, it's going to be twice the price tomorrow anyway.
Exactly.
So I've actually shifted the way I think, and if I need something, I just go buy it, and I don't wait and save the money. So my savings have gone way down, just making sure that I can actually have the things I want.
But back to the core, what she said, to be honest with you, this is what might be conflicting with you, Dan. I think that is the way I felt at 25. And I'm pretty sure you did too. I didn't have a good handle. I didn't think you could. I'll never forget, I was 24, 25, 23, 24. I just got in the military. And the guy said, hey, I need to buy a house. I need 10 grand. I'm about to go get 10 grand and put it in the house. I never forget saying to myself, well, I guess I'm never buying a house. Like, I literally said that. I didn't think there was going to be a way to get it. So it's like, that's why I have a problem 100% buying in that it's all going to be gone, because we all go through those periods.
Oh, it's not all going to be gone, but let's just look at what's happening today. If and I'm going to use the obvious example. If you're in the Ukraine right now, do you think that they have food and fuel and everything they need?
No.
Okay, like my understanding is in roughly the last week or two, 40% of the electric grid has been taken out.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's tens of millions of people that have no food in their refrigerator because their refrigerators are room temperature, and so food and fuel is a real problem. And if it was only the Ukraine, I would say, well, it's because they're in war, right? But what about Sri Lanka? What about what about all over South America? What about Lebanon? What about let's see, I can keep going.
Shoot, you could say half the big ones.
Well,
Qatar right now. Qatar, you say some parts of Sudan. Yeah.
So when you were 25, was this happening around the world?
See, but I don't know. See, that's why I don't buy into it 100% because at that time I wasn't paying attention.
Okay, well, I'll tell you, I was.
Yeah,
and
you
it
were.
wasn't.
It wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't happening. I mean, the food situation in the world, look, there will always be starving children in, we talk about the starving children in Africa, right? There will always be starving children in Africa. But rarely do you hear about...
I don't like that phrase, starving kids in Wales. Let's say
okay,
that.
starving
Wales.
kids in Wales. There we go. But there's a news report, and again, I don't know if it's sensationalism, but they're talking about 10,000 people in England dying of freezing to death this winter because of the lack of fuel in Europe.
Oh, really?
I mean, oh yeah, that's a real headline, and that isn't just like coming out of the National Enquirer.
Well, I mean, can we even bring this conversation home though? Because I feel like as Americans, we kind of get stuck on like looking at the world when it's just like we have a homeless epidemic that's going on in our nation now, and it's just like, how are we accommodating that? Like, we always send out our resources to everywhere else, but it's people here.
Well,
that's another
thing. You're dancing way too close to politics for me.
Sorry.
I couldn't agree with you more. Okay. I think that we as Americans should take care of Americans before we take care of the rest of the world. And that's write a letter to the to your Congress man or woman and to the president to suggest
we'll take it
otherwise. So we do have problems here, but you mentioned something just before we sat down, and that was COVID.
Yes.
How did COVID change your life and the way you felt about availability of things?
Dang. It definitely kind of like messed me up because I grew up in a time where everything is instant.
Right.
And so now it was like parameters were set on things, and there was specific times where I could go out and buy things or whatever. And then the things that I needed to buy, like toilet paper, would be gone immediately. So
that first month or two when COVID first, you couldn't find paper towels and I'm buying
baby formula.
Yeah, I'm baby formula.
Yeah.
Later, but I'm out trying to buy it just like you. I'm like, wait, what the?
Yeah.
I had never
Who is
seen
buying all this toilet paper.
You don't even live here. Who are you?
You would think the Kleenex or the Lysol, whatever, would be gone first before toilet paper. So it's just like, we're given how, the pandemic was set up. But it definitely changed just how I went about even like with my finances or how I would structure my day-to-day living.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, what about the fact that, before Thanksgiving every year, turkey is normally, $1 a pound, and it go on sale somewhere for 49 cents a pound. I got a letter from my niece. She paid, I think, $8 a pound for turkey for Thanksgiving. I mean, $8 a pound is insane.
A lot. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. You're not even should be breaking close to. You should not be breaking close to $1.
$1, and yet it's way above that. What about the fact that hamburger was $8 a pound almost everywhere? And Melissa and I are on vacation. We're out. We're gonna do a little camping thing. We got a grill, and I go to the cheapest supermarket I can find, and I'm looking for some T-bone steak. $26.50 a pound for T-bone steak, and that was the cheapest price I could find.
That's crazy.
And so I'm looking at this going, this is insane. T-bones should be $7 a pound, $8 a pound, not 26 and a half.
But and this is a stick to it too. This is, maybe going along with what you're saying. Also, a big indicator to me was, remember when maybe about 2-3 years ago they were talking about Impossible meats?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, well, to me, I'm like, I'm not sure if you've ever seen Soylent Green, but it reminds you of that where, it's a movie, great movie. Charlton Heston. It's an old people movie, but it's great.
Yeah.
But no, it's like, it makes you think of that. It's like, because they say it's the same amount of calories. It's supposed to taste like it. They'll make it less, cheaper. So I do feel like if we're going to what you're going to, meat will become more of a luxury item.
Oh.
For the working class.
It became a luxury item.
Yeah.
Okay, I see that, but like, theory, would that be a bad thing if meat became this kind of highly sought out thing? Just because when you think about the fact that the world is growing so fast, overpopulation is like a key phrase that's thrown out all the time. But, when you think about food energy, and just how that goes, like it's a lot of stress that's being put on these animals, and essentially we are digesting that stress. So like the meats that you're talking about aren't even necessarily healthy anymore. So is them trying to,
Wait a second. Says who? Do you know?
it says science.
Oh, wait a second.
Well, red meat.
Well, okay, we're not even going to follow the science, because follow the science usually means follow the
Red
dollar.
meat has been considered a carcinogen since 2016, but it's everything in moderation. That's the problem with America somewhat now. And I'm not trying to make it political, but it's because we have such an abundance. That might be the thing too. We don't know what it's like to live on balance. If you go to Europe right now, you're going to they're going to serve my big ass a plate that's probably this big.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
can eat 6 of them. And if I even ask for a second one, they're looking at me crazy.
Crazy, yeah.
But once again, I think America has such an abundance, because even then, overpopulation is not something America really cares about. The only reason we would care about it is because we don't have enough people to build the homes. But in all actuality, go to Minot, North Dakota. There's probably 100 million acres just bare.
I learned an interesting fact, and I don't want to get too far off subject, but did you know that only 1/5 of America lives west of the Mississippi River?
Oh,
Only 1/5. 4/5 of us live on the East Coast, and 1/5 lives on, and I'm calling coast, basically, use the Mississippi as the dividing line. So I took an airplane trip to a Mecum auction a little while ago. For 3 hours on the trip, I think I counted 10 houses in 3 hours of flying.
what?
I mean, so overpopulation, see, I would argue that to the death. And I would also argue that meat is a bad thing, or that eating meat is a bad thing. I happen to love it.
I think most things in moderation, but I think America might have lost the concept of moderation, and that could be feeding into what your argument might be about, like people having to preserve. Like I don't think that this is for any other reason outside of that. Our population is growing, we're growing as people, and we want more. And then not only that, if I kill this cow and I find out you'll pay $26 for that steak, you think I'm going to bring it down?
Right, you're going to try and get $26 a pound.
I'm going to try to.
So look, it's almost a different argument. Do Americans have too much? And I'll just tell you that there is one thing that does bother me a little bit. America consumes 1/4 of the globe's natural resources.
Oh, yeah.
We only have something like, 5% of the people, and yet we consume 1/4 of the natural resources. But that's almost a different philosophical thing. And I'll just tell you, do you benefit by being an American and having access to abundance?
Yes.
And look, I love the rest of the world. I've traveled to so many countries. But America's the greatest country, and quite honestly, I think we deserve it. We invent the stuff, we make the stuff, we produce the stuff, and so for me, if we get to consume the stuff, then
I see, and I'd have a better argument for that if that was universal. I don't think for most of the country is actually monopolizing on a lot of stuff, whether it's because of the lack of education and knowing that what resources are there to get it, or just the fact that no one else cares. If once I'm not gonna lie to you, the moment William makes $5 million, yeah, I'm out. Like, you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about me talking about I'll do what I want for the people I care about, the things that I do care about. But that's the mentality I think most Americans have, is to take care of yourself. We don't think like how I think, because I do think it's a good idea to maybe have reserves and stuff like that. But not many people are thinking about that once they get to that 5 million and above. And your friends probably aren't caring about that either. The trick is, and I've said this to you before, I need to be able to convince my wife that this is the right idea. You get what I'm saying? So if I want to go buy a $10,000 generator to preserve my meats and my life and stuff like that, the goal is I need to be able to show her this and say, hey, this is happening. Or it's a potential that it could happen.
And I'll just tell you, it'd be a mistake to buy a $10,000 generator. We'll get into that later, because guess what happens when you're the only guy in the neighborhood that fires up a generator, and the rest of the neighborhood is...
They get to meet this armory, baby.
Yeah, they're all coming after your generator and your cold meats. So what it comes down to is, let's just start here. Do you think, and we're going to go right to the first principle of easy homesteading, which is nutrition. Do you think that the food you're getting today, that you're buying off the shelves, is as nutritious as it should be?
No.
Okay. Do you think
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because I'm very skeptical.
Skeptical about what?
Watch Farmageddon. Watch Farmageddon. It's a great
Farmageddon?
It's a documentary.
Are they plugging this too?
No, we got nothing to do with them, but I watched it. Really well done. Great video. So why do you not think surprised at
No,
you.
I'm gonna tell you in a second. Go ahead.
I'm
Go ahead.
surprised that you say I don't know.
I'm gonna tell you why I don't know.
Did you know that your testosterone level is 20% lower than your father's at your age? Did you know that?
How do you know that?
Oh, wait a second.
Sorry.
Did we measure something in my dad that I didn't know about?
Look it up. It's
What-
well
look,
documented.
Look what up.
Look up testosterone levels
Yes,
by generation. And in the United States of America, the testosterone levels on males have gone down 20% in 20 years.
And once
it's an alarming rate.
And once again, I can write a piece of paper like this, and I'm gonna tape it on an apple, and I'm gonna say it's organic, and it's gonna increase your testosterone.
Wait a second. And you're talking anecdotal versus.
Well, I'm talking more
spectrum
her point.
Well, okay, I don't necessarily think.
Let her make her point.
Oh,
yet.
there you go.
Make your point.
There you go.
I don't think the food that we eat, just going back to energy and how it's transferred from one thing to the next, the stress, the fact that these food corporations have to produce food at such fast, high rates or whatever, the animals themselves are under stress, duress, they're tired. And so we are literally eating this depleted energy source anyway. And then now we're taking that and we're already depleted from our energy because we have to work all day, we have to do all this other stuff. And then on top of that, the preservatives that they put in our food just to make them last longer, the things that they, like the way that, I mean, no shade to the FDA or whatever, but they cut corners on just about everything. So it's just like, to a certain degree, I don't necessarily trust the food on the shelves the way that I would like to.
And so we're going to sit you next to William next time so you can help him along when he faces these
hold
tough
on.
challenges.
I was raised in the 90s. I remember when the avocado was called a super fat, like what they call it, a good fat.
Yeah.
I remember also milk was considered
There
the
was
best
doctors
nutrition.
that were enforcing cigarettes for so long until they realized that they weren't good.
But no, we knew milk was not good. Look, I'm black. Half of my community was lactose intolerant, and they're pushing milk as if it's the second coming of Christ himself.
Wait a second. And I'll tell you right now, and I'm going to go on record, homogenized milk, this pasteurized milk is not nearly as good for you as raw whole milk.
Why would
we're
milk
not supposed
from
to
another
Raw
drink
animal?
whole milk
anyway.
is actually wonderful for you. Well, I'm going to agree that much of these pasteurized processed foods, incling
So you're
milk,
telling
are
me,
not great for you.
Yeah, okay. So milk, and then once again, you notice in record droves, my wife's pregnant right now.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. A little girl, February 14th.
All right, Valentine's.
Excited. But anyway, you have more women that are not willing to breastfeed than they would give their child powder milk or everything else, but won't breastfeed because they have the reliance of cow milk.
But we're not supposed to be. Think about the fact that when the cow was birthed, it's already big as I was.
I like this theory.
We just gave birth to our first cow about 3 weeks ago, about 80 pounds at birth.
Okay, but so the hormones that's in cow milk, do you honestly think that humans are supposed to be digesting this? Like, why do you think we have different diseases and the fact that our immune system isn't as strong as it used to be? Like, the food that we eat is not.
Oh, okay, and so.
Or the milk or anything, it's not good.
Well, and so I'm going to go on record and absolutely agree with you that the processing of food today, the fact that the chickens, do you know what the turnaround law is? Have you heard of the turnaround law?
There's a law?
Okay, there's a law in some states, not in all. In some states, an animal must be in a cage big enough that it is capable of turning around.
And
That's not even a requirement in some states. Yeah. So animals can be kept in cages so small they can't turn around. So that when you talk about animals under stress, I agree with you. Whether it's a chicken, a pig, or a cow, there's a lot of things going on that are completely unsat. But I'm talking about also just fruits and vegetables. Do you have? Let me just explain something that's going to make no sense at all. If you're eating a real pretty tomato, it's probably an unhealthy tomato. Yeah. If you're eating a slightly ugly tomato, it's probably a really good for you tomato. That good-looking fruits and vegetables are generally not as healthy as ugly ones because ugly ones are naturally grown. And look, when you grow tomatoes,
yeah, they're different sizes and shapes.
They have lumps on them and they have little spots on them and things, and yet they're delicious. And so the nutrition in modern food, I think is sadly lacking.
I think I'm I don't believe what they tell me is nutritious. Like, it's hard for me to pinpoint it. Just because you say that this is organic, how do I know it's organic?
Well,
No, I agree.
and then that's the type of thing. And then not only that, we live in a capitalistic society where we're trying to get you to buy Coca-Cola,
Yes.
caramel sugared water. I want you
Come
to
on.
buy caramel sugar water. I don't care how you live. High fructose corn syrup, I promise you,
It's
50 years from
terrible.
now, there will be two things they're going to say. Social media and high fructose corn syrup are two of the most destructive factors in the United States.
I say that today.
Yeah, it's
I
just,
mean, that's-
it's crazy. And once again, I'm not saying, you can tell Thanksgiving came, I enjoyed, but it's not. I mean, we can throw a rock right now and we'll be at Long John Silver's up the street. Versus,
Okay, so I just want to close out the first subject with nutrition.
Okay.
Then, if you could grow your own food and control how that food was grown in an environment that was more natural and more organic,
Yeah.
more, would you think that would be a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, I think it'd be a good thing.
How about
Yeah,
you?
it's a good thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe nutrition is not off the table as a good thing.
Yeah.
And let me just tell you, and this is not to be too nasty on Norfolk, but the water in Norfolk is claimed to be very safe and very healthy. But I can smell the chlorine in it from 6 feet away. Literally a glass of it 6 feet from me, and I can actually smell the chlorine in it.
Yeah.
When we moved out to the country, and we've got a 415-foot deep well, and I tasted the water that came out of the well,
water's the best.
unfiltered. Oh,
you-
it is like
you
like
well water
tasting
before?
something.
It's great.
It's unbelievable the difference in the water I drink today versus the water I drank out of my tap in Norfolk.
Well, now I feel like we're kind of moving into the category of like luxury or whatever, just because, like, with the water situation, living out in the country requires certain things, like, especially if, with the way the country is set up, your nearest food line is probably like 20 minutes away from you sometimes.
Oh, easily.
So it's just kind of like, realistically, people of my generation, we not.
Yeah, no one wants extra.
But that's what we're talking about here is, is a trade-off worth it? So look, if you want the convenience of stepping out of your apartment and walking into a food line that's 300 feet away, then you're not going to have some of the benefits. And that's what we're trying to decide here is it worth considering a slightly different lifestyle to get those benefits?
But if they've already moved into that suburban or urban area, they've already committed to that.
Well,
You
okay,
think?
but I moved. It's you jump in your vehicle, you sign a different lease or get a different mortgage, and So look, I'm not suggesting that today it's a free thing for you to just make the decision. I'm just suggesting that maybe it's worth something that as you go from your ripe old 25 to 26 or beyond, that it's a consideration.
Yeah.
Because I'll just tell you that now that I've tasted fresh eggs, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and whole raw milk, I'll tell you, I'm not going back.
Oh, it changed,
I'm
it changed
not
you
going
like
back.
that? Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing.
What's the biggest difference that you?
Oh,
felt?
okay. So
That you feel.
all right. So the number one thing, the example that I can give you is one day, like my wife had gone out and I was a little upset because she had bought some tomatoes at a supermarket. She said, well, we're having shish kebabs and people over and our tomatoes aren't all that pretty. So she wanted prettier tomatoes. I grabbed a store-bought, one of these smaller tomatoes about this big, and I threw it in my mouth. And I closed my eyes, and I swear to you, if I hadn't seen an orange thing that looked like a tomato going in my mouth, I would have had no idea what I was eating because it had no flavor at all. It was like I was eating crunchy water.
Really?
And then I grabbed another tomato from our garden, and it was like it's stunning the difference. Now, our tomatoes are nowhere near as pretty. I'll tell you that right now. They don't look like plastic fruit, but they don't taste like it either. And milk is the same way. Store-bought milk versus raw whole milk. Oh, it's like you're drinking this cream, almost like
And your body doesn't reject any of this. You don't have like a detox period or nothing.
Believe
like
it or not, your probability of your body rejecting, because I'm going to agree with you that a large preponderance of society is lactose intolerant. But I agree with you. However, when you drink raw whole milk, the reaction in your body is significantly less.
Really?
Now, I don't have any. I can literally eat 6 gallons of ice cream,
it's the same
and
thing
it doesn't
here. Same
bother
thing.
me. Okay,
I'm not drinking milk. I'm
but
sorry.
for people that are lactose intolerant, try a glass of whole milk, of raw whole milk, and you might just find that you're a lot less lactose
You hear
intolerant
that?
than you think.
He's gonna bring you a gallon of milk and expect
I'm
you're gonna
not-
drink
I'm
the
not
whole thing and
drinking
enjoy
it.
it.
So do you eat
Gotta
cheese?
try.
I don't like the taste of milk.
Do you eat cheese?
No, unless it's on a sandwich.
So you eat cheese?
Okay. So do you eat ice cream?
Yeah.
Okay. Eat actual fresh ice cream made with raw milk, and you will never go back to that stuff in the box.
I don't know.
It's different. It's a richer flavor.
I think I
It's-
was raised with a poor man's mentality. I don't think there's anything you could throw at me that I wouldn't not like.
Oh, well, wait
But that's a
second.
problem too. Like,
right.
I'm not saying I won't eat onions, I guess, but
You're just weird.
Yeah.
Hey, margarine. Do you eat margarine at home or butter?
I don't do either.
Margarine or butter?
What's the difference between margarine and butter?
Oh my God.
One's made
Okay,
of oil.
one is one molecule away from plastic, and one is a natural man-made natural God-made product. Butter comes from a cow, from milk, from the cream that is churned and basically rendered into butter. Margarine is basically you take some crude oil and you add a couple chemicals to it, and then you smear it on toast. So margarine is very different. I was raised on margarine. My mom and dad, the thought of us buying butter was unheard of, because
Really?
margarine was 4 pounds for $1.
Yeah.
Butter was like $1 a pound.
Pound, yeah.
We ate nothing but margarine. I hadn't tasted butter until I was something like 18 or 19 years old when I moved into my own house. And then I tasted, I went, I have been eating that garbage for 18 years. So the reality is look, if you're used to margarine, you're going to eat margarine, you don't really know better. But once you eat whole butter, especially a fresh butter, you'll literally never go back. It's like, I'm not willing to waste the calories on this junk,
Yeah.
when for the same calories
I
and
can get
actually
something
much
else.
better health,
Yeah.
I can eat good food. So all right, so you're not yet convinced about the nutrition, but I'll tell you what, I'm gonna do something for you. I'm gonna bring you in a few natural products versus store-bought products, and we're gonna put two pieces in front of you and have you close your eyes and taste the difference, and we're gonna see if you can then, I think we're gonna open up your mind a little bit more to nutrition.
Okay.
All right?
I'm all for it. I
right.
like that. Oh, I'll watch that one. This is
All right.
pretty good. Yeah.
So now, self-sufficiency, is it important to you?
To an extent, yes.
Okay.
I feel like once you get to the point where you can't be self-sufficient, that type of preparation is hardcore.
All right, let me ask you a question. When you were, I'm going to go back to say 17 or 18. When did you move out of your house? When did you move out on your own?
Oh, 17.
17. When you moved out on your own, were you financially secure?
No.
Okay.
No.
You were like me, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, bro.
literally.
Take me government, take me military, please. Turn
Yeah.
me into something. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I literally brought home leftover like meals from the military that people throw away, and I brought that home to my family because we didn't have the money to buy food. I mean, I was actually quite poor. I was 17 with a wife and a kid, and
You had a kid at 17 too?
yeah,
Wow. My
yeah.
parents, that's my parents.
So times were rough. Okay, and when I remember my first electric bill came in, it was $205, and my rent was $175. I almost died. I mean, we shut the heat off. We literally froze because we couldn't afford to keep our trailer heated. All right.
Dang.
So self-sufficiency, does that matter to you?
Yes.
Okay. So right now, do you have to decide today, because you're 25, so you might still, and there's no crime in this, but do you have to decide whether you're going to buy a little bit more food or pay your electric bill, or can you comfortably pay both?
So it's kind of hard for me to answer that question because right now I still live with my mom.
Okay.
Because I'm too broke to live alone right
Okay, so you are, all right, so
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
been there, all
I've
right?
been there.
So right now you are not financially independent.
No, yes, I am. Like, I still handle I just don't have to pay bills, but I have my own
Well,
bills.
somebody's paying the bill.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But you
So
get me-
You don't have a
So
mortgage.
Yeah.
I'm going to overrule you and say that you are not today financially independent. Would you agree with me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Don't worry. We was all there. Don't worry.
This is
It's
not-
a horrible sentence
we're not
but-
beating
yeah,
on
I'm
you.
like, dang.
All right.
It's all right. It's all right.
Were you financially independent when you were 18 years old?
Hell no.
Okay,
Hell no.
I was not either.
No.
I was literally begging from Peter to pay Paul.
I got a $2,000 check out of boot camp. Guess what I spent it on? A portable DVD player, a Coldplay album, what's it called? 3 6 Mafia album, There's a whole bunch of
Okay,
stuff I
so
didn't need.
Just
Whole bunch
the
of
You
stuff I
spent
didn't
your
need.
money
stuff,
wisely.
The
yeah.
wrong stuff. Then that following paycheck, I'm begging for it, and I went still didn't go buy groceries. Bought $20 Whoppers, thinking I'm gonna hold that for the rest of
Yeah.
the week. That's my grocery shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
so
I was dumb.
I used to drive on tires, and I would actually count the levels of belts that I had worn through. I mean, so forget tread. I was literally counting belts, and I knew
wow.
when I got down to the last level of belts, because that's when I changed my tires. And I'm not exaggerating. I drove to work on base, counting, exposed treads on tires, and I lived that way for a while.
That's the military involved. I can only imagine what you got to go through without, because they at least gave me a boost. They gave me a free roof over my head and
Right.
a limit lot to go to or something. But
Oh,
yeah,
no.
you on the other hand, you
I
just
really
out
gotta
there.
figure it out for real.
Yeah, I've got a sister your age, and it's
Yeah.
the same thing. But when you finally do, it's
you'll
what makes
get
you
there.
appreciate
Which I'm like close to. Like I'm real thankful because I have some friends like after graduation, they were like, I can't go back home. They didn't have that option.
That was me.
And so
Yeah.
I'm thankful that my mom was like, yeah, you can come back, get yourself together. Cause like them first 2 years, I was doing what you was doing. I was spending it
yeah.
on just stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Like
I-
growing up wasn't even a concept.
You did that with kids?
No, I didn't have
See,
kids
I
yet.
did-
I didn't
oh,
have,
all
no,
right.
this is my first child. Look, my father was, my dad, he told me since I was 5, college or the military. And then by the time you was 16, there was a countdown every morning before he went out to work at that maximum security prison. It was 6 months, 4 days, and 6 months, 3 weeks, 4 days, 10 hours.
But who's counting?
Oh yeah, who's counting?
All right.
And he kept his word.
All right. So do you feel better about your life now that you've got some level of financial security?
Yes.
Feels good, doesn't
Feels
it?
good.
All right. So self-sufficiency financially, you've achieved.
Mm-hmm.
Self-sufficiency financially, you're working on, right? So it feels good to get there, right?
Yes, yes.
And I feel good about that.
Yeah.
So self-sufficiency, maybe it's more than just money, right?
Yes.
I mean, having your own home and not, I mean, you don't have roommates in your home wondering if, they're going to be throwing a party when you get home.
Sometimes when I think about my wife, but no.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that later offline. All right, so the fact is that for me, producing my own food is just like having money, right? That today, if the grocery store is closed down and toilet paper or eggs or milk isn't available, I'm not going to say I don't care about you guys, but I don't care that much because
True.
I will have my own eggs and meat and chicken and actually we don't worry about toilet paper. We put a bidet in, which is actually a really good way to get around toilet paper.
I've heard that's actually
It's a
pretty
cheap
good.
and
I heard
simple-
that's a really good one though.
It actually is a cheap and simple way to get around toilet paper.
I think we're the only modern country or first world country that uses toilet paper still. Like if you go to
That's-
Paris, like I went to
I was
Paris.
gonna- yeah, I thought you were going-
I literally was like, hey, before I get it, I always check for toilet paper. Hey, where's the toilet? You kept trying to explain bidet in French. I'm like, English. But no, yeah.
That's still weird to me.
No, very few
Kinda
countries
right.
use. Let me tell you, this is one of the few countries that does use toilet paper.
toilet paper, yeah.
Yeah. You use other things in other countries. Mostly it's just
I'm
water.
surprised we
And
had-
quite honestly, it's better.
Yeah, it's way better, and it's better for the environment too. Because no matter what you say, something's got to go somewhere.
Okay.
Fiber will go somewhere.
Yeah. So I'm big into self-sufficiency, and so it started with money. Like I no longer have to decide whether I'm going to buy food or pay my electric bill. I can generally do both now, and I feel the same way about food. So that's why I've kind of aggressively moved into that self-sufficiency life. How much would you care about that?
I care about it. The happiness part I'd like to experiment with. I won't lie. Like I might not understand or see your vision because I'm not you, but I like when you say, "Hey, it makes you feel good." I'd like, oh, well, let me see what that's about. It ain't gonna hurt nothing. The same
Yeah.
thing with you with the vibes of the meat. I thought that was a good.
Can I just the simplest thing in the world? We planted. We actually planted 140 trees this year, but we planted all of our trees bear fruit. So if you're going to have a yard and you're going to throw a tree up in it, whether you put an oak tree in it or an apple tree in it, it's basically the same price. You dig a hole, you put a little bit of compost in there, and you grow a tree. But you know what it's like to walk out and just grab apples off of your own tree, and you're producing your own food.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just a really cool feeling to be able to know that I don't have to go to the store for this. I can just go grab it off of a tree.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. The convenience is there too, and then like, How much time do you put towards all that though?
Oh, once they're planted, none. So once we plant a tree, and we planted 140 trees. Total number of hours that took, it's probably 100 hours. Okay, it took us about 100 hours to plant 140 trees. Now I cheat because I love tools, and so for $199 you can go buy a little auger, and you basically just punch a hole in the ground, throw the tree in it. You do have to go out and buy a little bit of horse manure and compost and a few other things. Throw it on there. We would put some Miracle Grow, which is a basic nitrogen ammonia. Put a little bit of that on, and you're done. We then ignore the trees and start picking apples. So that's all the work it takes to grow fruits. Cherries, you got to deal with June bugs, so we spray them down with garlic.
How long does it take for a tree to grow, though? I thought they take mad long.
The trees that we planted in March, we were picking apples from in August.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's 5 months?
Yeah.
Here's another
Now
question.
now let me. In all fairness, I didn't buy 1 foot tall trees.
Yeah, he bought.
I was
one
buying
design.
5 foot tall trees. They're about 3 years old.
And how much do they normally run?
I was paying so I'm a big sale shopper, and I look for bargains and everything else. I was paying $39 to $59 each for them.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. This wasn't expensive. It wasn't hard to do, and we punched a hole in the ground. We stick a tree. It cost us about $2 worth of dirt and manure to put it in the ground, and then we were eating peaches, pears, and apples from our trees this year.
What is the number one catalyst for someone to go the route that you went? Like, what is the one thing that said? Was it fear? Was it hunger? Was it? What's the one thing that you're like that she's one day gonna say?
Yeah. So
do that.
for me, it was in March of 2020 when this, like I was watching this COVID thing from November of 2019, and then in March when they said you got to put masks on. And I grabbed my family and I said, we're going to the supermarket. Because at that moment, I knew that things were going to get scarce. Because if you're more worried about getting the flu than you are about producing food, it's only a matter of time before things got scarce.
Scary.
And people started getting scared. And we went down to the grocery store, and already in March, we were looking at eggs not being available, and milk not being available, and toilet paper and Kleenex and hand cleaner and Comet. All these cleaning supplies were not available. I mean, we were there the second or third day they announced the mask mandates. And so for me, that was the thing where I said, if this isn't available today, what's not going to be available tomorrow? So the health benefits weren't what I was after. I just wanted food security.
Yeah.
But then when I started growing it and eating my own food, it was like, whoa.
Wow.
Now there's a better reason to grow my own food. It tastes better.
So the thing for me is like, when is the time, being 25, when would be the time for me to start even doing that? Because you say that, it was the mask mandates that made you start this.
Right.
But to me, I feel like that was too late. And then I feel like me to do this now would be too late. So it's just, is there such thing as being too late to be prepared?
Okay, so I mean, I think the answer is no, but I would argue that if you were in Ukraine right now and you had no electricity and no water and no food, for someone in that situation today, if they said, today I want to start getting prepared, I would say, yeah, you're a little bit late, but I would still work. I would still do it even then. I would still try, right? Because there's still going to be a tomorrow. So look, there's a great saying, and in fact, Michael, a buddy of mine just told me this. He said, the best day to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best day to plant a tree is today. Okay? So just sort of think that way. Look, if you live in an apartment and you don't have a yard, then you can't go plant a tree in the yard. But believe it or not, you can go on multiple different sites and for $10 buy a little grow light and get yourself a little planter this big in your apartment and put a couple tomatoes in it, a couple carrots, radishes, and cucumbers, and start growing some food. You can do that. I mean, literally, you can spend $20. Go do that now, and the day you take your own radishes and your own tomatoes and make a salad with it, you're going,
What about
that was cool.
What about her just at least having the skill? Like I think that's an issue I see too, because no matter what, if say somebody wanted to prepare tomorrow, they have no idea what it means to catch a fish or to hunt or to grow a plant or like, because you'd be surprised how many people just don't know.
Well, and in fact, that's I mean I didn't pay you to ask that question, but if I had paid you, you asked me the right question. Look, we're already working on all that. That's why I decided to create easyhomesteading.com, was because just like you know, how do I do it? Believe it or not, it's not that complicated, but let me ask you, if I said to you there's a short in the electrical system on a 1969 Camaro, would that be black magic and voodoo?
Yes.
But if I spent 15 minutes and showed it to you, suddenly you're like, oh, okay, I understand it.
Right.
Planting a tree, taking a chicken or growing chickens. We grow chickens. Growing chickens or putting together a garden. It's just like that. It isn't that hard, but there's a little bit of black magic around it for you right now, right? Little mirrors and.
Yeah, because it's more from the perspective of, I feel like you kind of explained like, why should I care? And I feel like all generations have dealt with this, but specifically now, it's just kind of like that sounds all fine and dandy, but realistically, I'm still like economically, I'm still trying to think about saving money so that I can put gas in my car just to get to work to buy the products that you're talking about buying. So it's just like how.
So look, if you literally are at the point where every penny you've got has to go into gas, then I'm going to agree with you. You're probably in a pretty tough shape to do any of this. But let's just say. Like, have you eaten fast food in the last week? Yeah. Okay. And can we agree that you are actually spending more money on fast food than if you went and bought a loaf of bread and a pound of meat and cheese?
Yes.
Okay. So you're obviously making decisions with your money to buy things that are more expensive than buy things that are less expensive because you want the convenience of the fast food.
Well, because it's the time factor.
Absolutely. So the way I look at it is the convenience of fast food you're paying a premium for. Buying food and preparing it from a grocery store takes more time but costs less money. Making your own food takes more time and costs less money still. So it's a matter of, you know, how are you going to make those decisions? For me,
which one?
I would say if you started with $20, I could equip you with a planter, some earth, and some seeds. And at that point, all it takes is a few minutes a week to sort of tend to it. And what happens is, right now you're going to be staring at a pile of dirt and you're going to go, this isn't that cool. But then in a month, when all these little sprouts start coming up, and then a few months later, these radishes start appearing and these tomatoes start appearing, it will change your mind, and suddenly you'll go, wait a second, that wasn't that much time, and it wasn't that much money, and I'm actually creating something.
Yeah. That is a good feeling. I plant bonsai trees, you know, because I use my time wisely. You can tell. It's a good feeling when you see something come out of the sprout to the thing. I can see it, but I do get what you're saying, because it's true. One of the biggest things you'll hear, and I'm not trying to talk down to you at all, but you know, you end up going for convenience, but it's not really an excuse because you could take the money somewhere else. But I can see where you're coming from in the sense of like, it does feel good to grow your own stuff, and if it's better for you and tastes better, you give it a shot. I do agree, kind of the convenience. Like I like doing certain things on my own, but as far as I'm on the road probably 6 hours a day, I don't have the time or energy, but once again, I could. Like, we make the time for things that are important to us. And so I'll tell you right now, I make a lot more time for tending to plants and animals than I ever have in my life, but I'll tell you the rewards are pretty magnificent. All right, we're going to get on to the last subject, just because we can't do this for 3 hours. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying it.
I could do it for 3 hours. All right, so let's talk about sort of preparedness in a different way. So now we're going to talk about, instead of just growing your own radishes or the nutritional aspects, whether it's a storm, a hurricane coming through that wipes out, the power for a week, Look at what happened in Florida. There are people down there that went for weeks. What about, I've got friends in Puerto Rico that were without power for 4 months.
Yeah.
4 months where they had no water, no food, no electricity. Everything was down, and they were, let me tell you, there was a lot of bad things, shootings and all sorts of, crime. The crime rate went nuts because when your family is hungry, let's face it, you will do what you have to feed your family, right? And other people will too, including take what's yours. So let's talk about preparedness, because I'm having too much fun with the other two. So do you think that it's possible that a storm could take down the grid and stop your refrigerator from making cold air?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think it's also possible that COVID or something like that, or something like what's going on in different parts of the world, whether it be riots or food shortages or attacks from other countries, or even the threat of war, do you think that could happen here too?
Yes.
Okay, you don't sound too certain. Do you really believe that, or? We're in America. That doesn't happen in America, does it?
Well, I know it doesn't happen in America. They came close to it, with Pearl Harbor and stuff, but it's just, I feel like anything is possible in this day and age, and with the way we're moving, I don't know.
And let me just sort of point out something real simple and fast. In 1941, we'll just use Pearl Harbor as an example. Do you know what percentage of American food and medicines that America produced?
How much?
It was nearly 100% of both.
Get out of here. Seriously?
Oh, yeah. But do you know what percentage of the medications in America today are produced in America?
Oh, today? Yeah.
3%. 97% come from offshore sources. So the fact is we live in a global economy now. So as much as I would even like to compare 1941 to today, there really is no comparison. No. Because in 1941, we had smaller markets and smaller farms and lots more of them, and we produced almost all of our own food, and we produced all of our own medications and all of our own products.
Well, see, that's the thing for me, though. It's the fact that as a country, we are dependent on the rest of the world to do our stuff. So it's just like, that's why to me, I can see war on American soil being a possible thing.
I'm more so, like riots and stuff, I mean, our country's been talking about riots and civil wars and stuff like that. It's happened once in our entire existence. I don't think it would happen again. Our military and our government's too strong. That's just my personal opinion. But I do get afraid of wars and stuff like that. The first place that you would want to attack if I'm outside of America is the grid. But I want back to your point about like how we don't produce enough. I read an article a long time ago that the culture of your company starts from the top. If you have a boss that likes to steal, more than likely everybody at the company's going to be okay with stealing. You know what I mean? That's kind of like how it goes. You ever think that that's the correlation? The moment we get away from producing our own goods, most of America is on the same token. Because my great-grandmother had chickens in her backyard. She had a fox that come by and kill them every now and then. The granddaddy go out there with a shotgun. They had a little garden, stuff like that, just in case. But, you got to remember, they came up through Jim Crow, so there wasn't many stores that they could get to. But I think that was more of a necessity then. The more I'm thinking about it, like it was a necessity back in the 40s to, especially after the Dust Bowl, to make sure to take care of your stuff. And then the government stopped giving incentives they still have incentives for farmers, but not what they used to, because you can't find people to actually do the work. I mean, that rabbit holes can just keep going.
Yeah, we could dive down a few thousand of these. All right, so you're right. Self-reliance was more important 70 years ago because we simply didn't have the convenience. But don't you think that reliance on a global infrastructure that is now frail, and that's an opinion, but I think the global infrastructure is frail. The production of fertilizer has gone down markedly in the last 12 months. The global food supply has fallen significantly, not just Ukraine, it's all over. And if you look at the water supply in the world,
I've heard about this.
Interestingly, China, I think it's the Yangtze River in China right now. It's something like only 50% of the people that were getting water from it are now capable of getting water from it. I mean, water supplies are...
Hershey made a purchase, I think. Like, I forgot. Somebody in the comments will correct me, but Hershey made a giant purchase of a natural good that was so skeptic that everybody was like, wait, what's happening? I want to say it was water. It had to have been like something on water. I can't remember.
There are interesting things going on right now globally with energy, food, and water. And look, depending on the news sources you listen to, you will some of these sources will scare you more than others. But I mean, look at our own Colorado River.
Yeah, Colorado's dried up.
Our Mississippi. I drove over the Mississippi River 2 weeks ago on a bridge. You can almost walk across the Mississippi today. I was dumbfounded. I had heard the reports and I thought they're exaggerated.
Yeah.
You can almost walk across the Mississippi today. And I'm talking about, it's a stream in many places. It's a stream.
What?
Yeah,
So-
that was
so-
a big thing with what's his name? Deion Sanders was complaining about it. His
it's
college in Mississippi.
It's unbelievable. So my
Jackson
point
State.
is that in this global world where we rely on a global marketplace and things aren't going well, should we in fact consider more self-reliance in terms of being prepared? Because if are you the only one living in your apartment?
No.
Okay, I mean your mom's in. Let me phrase that a different way. You have no one who's depending upon you.
Oh, no.
So you are your only dependent.
Yes.
You have a wife and soon one child.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think it's a possibility or is it a concern of yours that if things went bad for whatever reason, whether it was COVID phase 2, whether it was some sort of a threat, some sort of a cyber attack, a hurricane, do you have enough resources in your house for your family? And by the way, the federal government and FEMA defined self-sufficiency and being prepared as 30 days of food and water in your house. Do you have today 30 days of food and water in your house for your family?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Excuse my French.
So FEMA would say you are not self-sufficient. Do you have 30 days of food and water in your house?
No.
All right. So does that bother you?
Yes.
Having this conversation, yeah. It bothers you because you. I'm not sure if it's America. I'm not trying to deviate too much, but I don't feel like it's something that's. Man, now it's open up. They don't want me to be afraid, so I'm not really all that afraid.
And I agree. So if right now, if you've got a bank account, you don't use every penny in your bank account. You like to leave money in that account to have as a reserve, right? For a blown out engine or a flat tire or whatever. All right. Food to me is the same way. If you don't have enough food and water for a storm or for anything else, then what that means is if the chips go down and something happens and the grid goes down, where are you going to go? So look, having 30 days of food doesn't mean that you have to like live in a cave with rebel flags and gas masks. What it means is that you're not that worried if there's a storm that comes through. You're good. You have a feeling of comfort that you can just, hey, I mean, you don't want to have to, but wouldn't it be nice to just have like a 30-day supply just for that peace of mind?
Yeah, it would be phenomenal, just like you said, to have the peace of mind that I'm okay then. But then at that point, like now you're thinking long term at this point.
Yeah.
Well,
Because three months, to be honest with you, if I've committed to saying that, like, no, I don't have 3 months of material. I'm bought in. Like now, I have to actually start making moves. Like I'm gonna have to move, or I'm gonna have to start growing, or.
Well, 30 days. Let's start with 30 days, not 3 months. So 30 days. You've got right now 2 people for 30 days. Soon you'll have 3 people for 30 days, right?
Yeah.
So you need 90 person days of food to have a 30-day supply, right?
Yeah.
For a family of 3. All right. So the rule of thumb on water is a gallon per person per day, and that's for drinking and basic hygiene. And in your house, if you've got a water heater and a couple toilets, you already got about 40 or 50 gallons.
Yeah.
So you're almost halfway there with water. And I'm not suggesting you drink out of the bowl of your toilet, but the water in your tank of your toilet is actually,
If you can spark a fire, you can.
it's good.
sanitizer,
All right.
you know?
And your water heater contains usually 30 or 40 gallons of clean. It's water, right? It's your water.
Yeah.
So all you need now is a way to either store or treat another 30 or 40 gallons of water, and you're already to your 30-day supply of water.
Yeah.
And when it comes to food, you need roughly a pound of decent, high protein, high calorie food per person per day is a good number. So I mean, 30-day supply for 3 people is only about 90 pounds of food. It has to be the right food, but 90 pounds, it's not like I'm telling you it's 9,000 pounds of food.
But if we're running out of food at this point, we have to store the food. Where do we store the food?
Okay, so ideally you want food that's not refrigerated, right? Because if the grid goes down, if the power goes out after a storm, it all goes bad. So how hard is it to store a 30-day supply of food that doesn't need refrigeration? I can store it in a fairly decent sized box. A 2x2x2 box would just about take care of a 90-day supply of food. Now, I'm not talking about an amazing diet where you're eating scrumptious meals every day, but yeah, you're not talking about a lot of space.
Yeah.
So my goal is that everyone, whether you live, out in the country in a rural environment, in the suburbs, or even if you live in an apartment in the middle of the city, you should have at least a week. I mean, I really believe in a month, but a minimum of a week's supply. That way, if a storm rolls through or anything happens, you don't have to be running outside your place after day 2 because you have nothing to eat or drink. And by the way, as it gets old, just consume it and just replenish. It's like you use your money in your bank account, right? You don't use it all up. You just use up what you need and add more to it.
Oh.
What do you think? Is it worth considering?
It's definitely worth considering. Do you ever market like that same type of theory with because some people won't have to have it kosher?
Well, okay, and obviously if you've got specific dietary needs, then that's up to you to prepare. But I will tell you this about that. You'd be amazed at how many people forget their special dietary needs when they get hungry. Oh no, I've watched it. Look, I was part of a team, and it was a real screwing. It was my 10-man team, and they said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring you guys to breakfast. You're going to eat, and then we're taking you out into the desert for 2 weeks with nothing, and you're going to have to survive. So every one of us had our pockets lined with plastic bags, and we were going to fill up eggs and hash browns and grits. And guess what they did? They loaded us up on the truck to take us to breakfast, and they said, yeah, we're skipping breakfast. We're bringing you straight out. So we went out with nothing.
Was it survival engineering SEER class? Was it SEER class?
Well, it was a spec ops program. So I'll just tell you that people with special dietary needs changed really quickly when the only thing available is rattlesnakes and the occasional jackrabbit. And let me tell you,
no meat on the rabbit.
You enjoyed a rattlesnake and jackrabbits when there was nothing else to eat.
Rattlesnake?
Trust me, you would love it when you're hungry.
They had us take care of the rabbit during the technical class. So you have a rabbit, they give you 2 MREs, you're out there for 5 days. On day 2 or 3, you're negotiating for MREs. By day 4, you're killing that damn rabbit. That rabbit, and there's no meat on the rabbit.
Yeah.
It is,
So look, if you've got time, and that's why the word prepare is used, right? If you need a kosher diet, if you need this diet or that diet, prepare for it appropriately. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, prepare something. To go into a situation where to buy 30 days worth of food, you got to keep food in your house anyway. So just stockpile a little bit, be prepared, and look, if nothing happens, you have food and you eat the food. But if something happens,
you have the food.
You're not the one banging on the next door neighbor's door or fighting for food because you're at least a little bit prepared. Look, I think preparedness is something that everyone should do. I mean, I think it's available to all of us.
Well, yeah, but I don't have the money for that.
Okay. And look, preparedness can be done at different levels. I know people that buy multi-million-dollar underground bunkers, but I think you can get started with 20, 30, 50 bucks. So what it comes down to is, can you afford fast food at all? Like, have you eaten out at fast food in the last month?
Yes.
How much did it cost you to eat out the last time you went out for breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Probably like $15 maybe.
$15. Just because I knew that, people wanted to do this, but it's a little bit expensive, we went out and bought 100,000 meals, and we're selling, so for $15, I could get you 7 days of calories, 7 days of survival meals that you could put into your closet. And there's 1 week for the price of 1 meal that you went out and ate fast food. Now, is that affordable?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it isn't unaffordable.
I think the seed is important. I think the seed of what you're dropping, to be honest with you, I think that's really important. It might not be the time now, but it's something that she never thought of. At least I thought. Me too. I never even thought of.
I mean, kind of just because, that show Doomsday Preppers. I used to watch that a lot. And, like, even though they were very extreme, like, it was getting me aware of, like, the necessity of being prepared for crazy stuff to happen or whatever. But, like, now being of age or whatever, like, the practicality of it and just going about it confuses me, or at least overwhelms me, because it's just like, how? And like you said earlier, like, I don't know how to hunt, I don't know how to fish, I don't know how to skin. So it's just like, even with me being prepared and say I do stockpile like 100 days worth of stuff or whatever, once that stuff runs out, I can't just go to the store and buy that anymore because everything's gone. So it's just like, then what?
Okay, but here's and that's actually a really good question, and unfortunately you're diving off on a whole new subject. But let me answer it quickly. I love the story of the two guys running from the lion, and the one guy looks at the other and says, "Do you think we can outrun the lion?" And the other guy says, "I don't care. I just need to outrun you." Okay, so if you can get through 30 days. You're not competing initially with everyone else. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can hunker down and look, you hunker down, you've got your food, you've got your water, you keep to yourself, you're gonna be just fine. Now, at the end of 30 days, this is where we get into how long will a disaster last? Because as a rule, a lot of infrastructure will come back in a certain period of time. Now, if we're talking about something really catastrophic, then yes, we do need to start talking about beyond 30 days. But 30 days makes you and the other guy running from the lion, you're running a little bit better than that guy is. And that's all I'm talking about right now is the lion may still be there, but at least he's not after you right now. That's all we're talking about. All right, so what do you think? We're thinking about some of this stuff, a little bit of nutrition, a little bit of self-sufficiency?
For sure, especially the idea of like what I budget out my money, like how you were saying before, like you make time for the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
And being prepared is something that we should want to do. So I can,
For me, it's just peace of mind, right?
Yeah.
It's peace of mind.
Yeah, I think that's a big one too. And having significant others is probably the thing. I tell my wife all the time, like, you get to live your life and think about your day. I go through my life and I think about her day, now the baby's day, what the dog's gonna do and stuff like that. And then you want to have some contingencies, because I have contingencies for every piece of financial situation in my life right now.
Right.
If tomorrow my wallet just falls out my pocket, some kid in Norfolk takes it all the way down the street, I have a contingency for that. If my keys go missing, I have a contingency for that. But I think that's something too to think of. But I also wonder why that's never like a priority for Americans.
Because this is America. In America, nothing ever goes wrong, right?
True.
Yeah.
But is that in fact really true?
No.
It's not really true.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that maybe there are some signs, there's some handwriting on the wall. Mm-hmm. When I look at fertilizer and water and food, I get a little bit nervous as to what's coming up.
It's a lot of stuff. I feel like a cold winter's coming, and like I said, this is not political, but certain big corporations are bowing out of employees, getting rid of tens of thousands of employees. I think about that because another factor too is you don't need your infrastructure and everything to go bad. You just need enough of your neighbors that be going through bad stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a whole class of people in this country who hear one thing that rings the tone of what they've been through. Who's to say they don't start marching throughout all of our cities,
All right.
So
closing thoughts, I'll go first. Think about $100 budget, and if you want to think about a $100 budget, I will do everything I can to set you up with at least a 30-day sort of emergency supply of everything you need. The ultimate goal of easy homesteading is whether you live in an urban environment, a suburban environment, or a rural environment, I think you can all be prepared, and you just have to prepare differently based on where you come from. Parting thoughts.
Great conversation. I always enjoy talking to you. You are a
Ditto.
phenomenal guy to talk to. A little bit more into it. Definitely would commit to $100 vested into preparation. Recycle. I'm a big recycling guy. Can I plug?
Plug.
Hey, I'm a commercial buyer for Elizabeth Forever Recycling. If you have any metal recycling needs needed within the 757 or throughout most of Virginia, I provide container services, buy any of your metal, make you money, sit down and talk to you, give you lottery tickets, buy you lunch, you name it, I'll do it.
That's where he picks up all of our leftover scrap
Yeah.
aluminum, copper wire motors.
Elizabeth River Recycling, located in Chesapeake, Virginia. You can call it 757-275-3282. I'll make you money.
All right.
Okay.
Now you got to give me a parting thought.
Parting thought. This was real cool. I'm honored you asked me to be on here. And honestly, I learned a lot just from both of y'all's perspective with everything. And
So
just,
so old people aren't just stupid?
I mean,
Talk for yourself.
no, like realistically, a lot of wisdom can be gained from the older generation. And I feel like my generation specifically, we kind of have this mentality where it's just kind of like, F everybody else, I'm going to do me. And, you know.
We all did.
Yeah, you didn't invent that, trust me.
Well, I mean, I know we didn't invent it, but I just feel like the difference is y'all didn't have social media. So it's
Thank
just,
God.
it's
Yeah,
different
thank
about how we perceive our life on this
Yeah.
planet. So it's just like you breaking down preparedness the way that you did and your added comments to it, it just really got me to understand like the deeper psychology in just being prepared, literally. So
All right, very cool. So obviously, look, what we're doing here is we're trying to bring awareness to people, just like what we did today, right? Maybe you are thinking about things differently, and so the whole goal of Easy Homesteading is to not only sort of help bring awareness, but also help facilitate whether you need, seeds for a garden or techniques on how to, store water or purify water. And so, we're doing this and more on the show, right? So the show is going to be featured on Fantomworks Off Grid. In fact, go ahead and show everybody. All right, CMAX Media. That's our network.
Nice, nice.
And what do you do at CMAX? Because
I am a camera operator there, and I also do editing.
Oh, wow.
okay. Now let me ask you: are you any good at it?
Don't do that.
Really
Yeah,
good. Wait,
she's
she's
really
really good.
good at it?
No. Come on, you can. No,
Yeah,
say
talk
it.
your stuff, man. Talk your
Let me
stuff.
tell you, she gets. I thought she was really good, but I that's not really my
Yeah,
line
you
of work.
wouldn't sound calm.
But I'm listening to other people, and it's like, okay, she's as good as I thought she is, because a lot of people say really good things about you, and
appreciate
so
that.
so yeah, you're doing a great job.
Did you teach yourself how to edit, or did you have to go to school for it? Or?
No, I went to school, and then just from my own experience of like working with other people and other production companies,
So many self-made millionaires out of just that world right there, being able to edit, make cuts, stuff like that. I bought Adobe and could make a simple cut, but watching some of you younger generation do this stuff, I'm like, how are y'all doing this?
Yeah.
Like,
But she's got a natural talent, I think, in just sort of understanding framing and where the action is and what to focus on. So
I
good job.
appreciate that.
good
Thanks.
job, good job. What's your end goal with it?
My end goal.
Like, I'm not saying leave CMAX. Definitely not saying that.
I'm gonna
just
stay
saying-
here for as long as they have me. But my end goal is to eventually like be a DP, which is a director of photography, and like work for whatever. Well, essentially, I want to end up having my own production company, but
Okay.
I could talk
that's
about
Outstanding.
ways
But
away.
so I'm going to have to share a secret with you. Do you know why I asked you to be on here? Because I figured you were an unbeliever. Because she's young and she's like, well, she always throws that my generation, our generation, like I'm like Methuselah,
Agreed.
but so it was actually interesting because I expected to get a lot more resistance from you than I
Me
did.
too. I thought you were gonna be like big contrarian.
Yeah.
Because people could receive him a certain way, but he's a cuddly bear. Well, let me take that back. He's a panda bear who looks cuddly, but he'll maul your face off if it gets too wrong. But
Dang.
Yeah.
you haven't seen the show yet.
Nah, not yet.
We saw you on vacation.
Oh, I'm sorry to
I
hear
saw it
that.
was on TV.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
to
I
hear
was
that.
like, what was that name of that place in Norfolk? I was like, Fantomworks. She was like,
Yeah.
that's him.
All right, so yeah, I specifically wanted you here to get sort of the gritty other side, and I hope that you didn't say anything that. Do you agree with everything that you said, or were you trying to be nice?
Oh, no. Like, I agree with everything that I said. Like, I don't mind having a difference of opinions. It's just, in this case, I kind of am on that other side of my generation where, like, I just look at things from a real perspective or whatever. So it's just like, and then plus two, I was kind of very nerdy when I was a kid. So I was watching like other things that kids weren't watching and was involved in adult conversations a lot about like political, environmental stuff. So like, if anything, I was just trying to keep in mind that young people watching this might not have my same perspective, but I just wanted to be a voice for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need, in other words, what you're saying is we need to get, like, you're now old and we need to get someone young. Okay, so we'll look for someone younger than you next time.
Next.
All right, so with that, we're going to close out. Thanks for staying with us for the last whatever it's been. It feels like it was 5 minutes, but I'm sure it was longer than that. And we'll be back with another fun subject as soon as we can.
That's